Perfect. The next chart we're going to build is going to be a scatter chart. Okay, so the scatter chart, that's taking things to the next level, but just want to introduce you to a couple different types of charts that you have. This is a really good way to see correlations of data, look at two different measures and see how do they affect each other, how do they relate to each other. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we are going to analyze our gross profit for our different customers. So a couple different ways we could do this. We could start from scratch, or what we could do is take our waterfall visual, and I like to just kind of build off of this one. So I'm just going to go ahead. No, I'm not, because we're going to look at we're going to add some expenses in here too. We're building this from scratch. So click in the white space. Let's just go from scratch on this one. In the visualizations pane, let's start from the top and go to the bottom. The scatter chart is one that looks like a little UPC code for that icon. So find that icon. It looks like just a bunch of dots all over the place. Click on that, and we're going to create a new scatter chart. As we go down, we have to say, okay, what is it that I want to look at? What do I want to chart? What are my dimensions in here? So we know we have business unit description. That's kind of a constant across all of our visuals. But we're going to analyze these by subdivisions as well. So just kind of knowing our data and what we have out here. I want to go ahead and look at that. So we're going to go up to the business unit table. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to find that business unit description. And I'm going to pull that over into my values field well. And then I'm going to find subdivision. I'm going to pull that in there. So I've got one little dot right here in the middle. It's like, what should I show you? Well, now let's go ahead and let's tell it what it is we want to see. So on the x-axis going across the bottom here, we want to look at the gross profit. So we're going to go down to our GL balances table. We're going to change subfolders here. Instead of looking at revenue, let's go to the gross profit. And I'm going to go find my gross profit actual amount selected. It's kind of far down in that list, about maybe 2/3 of the way down, 3/4 of the way down. Gross profit actual amount selected. And I'm going to put that in the x-axis. If you just check the box, it'll actually put it exactly where you want it. Now I see the gross profit kind of going across the bottom there, and if I hover over, I can see that by subdivision. But what I want to see is the gross profit, but based on compared to what is our gross profit percent. So let's go find the gross profit amount percent selected, and I'm going to put that in the y-axis. So I can see what is our gross profit, but then I can see what is the percentage of that as well. Now, all of these, you kind of have to hover to figure out what they are. I'm seeing the subdivisions. If I want to kind of group those subdivisions by division, okay, maybe add a little bit more context to this visual, we can actually add a legend. So this will give a little bit more grouping. So let's go back up to the business unit table and let's add the division. So we're looking right now, it goes at subdivision. We want to look one level higher and we want to look at the division. And I'm going to put that in the legend. What's going to happen now is it's going to color those based on which division. So I can see my home appliance division, and there's 3 little different subdivisions within that division. Or mobile, there's 3 different subdivisions. For TV and video, there's 2 subdivisions. So how is that? The size is kind of fun because I can actually affect what the size of the dots are. Again, so I'm not just necessarily looking at position, but the size will draw my attention in where a number is bigger. So what we want to look at is that revenue actual amount selected. So I'm looking at the revenue versus the gross profit and seeing how those tie together. So right now, I want to see, I know what my gross profit is, but what was the actual revenue for this? So we're going to take that number and put it right here under size. So let's navigate back down to the GL balances detail. And I'm going to go into the revenue subfolder. And I'm going to find that revenue actual amount selected. And I'm going to put that in the size section. Now, if I have revenue and I have gross profit, we might want to know the whole story. So if I'm looking at revenue to figure out the gross profit, we also want to see our expenses. Now, I don't need to chart that, but I want to tell the user the rest of the story. So where do we do that? In the tooltips section. So we're just going to go here. We're going to go to our expenses folder. And I'm going to find like the expenses actual amount selected. I'm going to put that in a tooltip. And then I'm going to put in the expense actual amount PY selected in the tooltip. And then I can go down and find the variance on that. I'm just going to navigate down to my expenses variance amount actual PY selected. And I'll do the variance percent there as well. Now, if you hover, I've got all kinds of information in this little chart. So it's telling a lot of stuff. Now, having the user have to hover to see what the subdivision is, it just adds, I mean, we like interaction, but we don't want to force it. So if we want to add some additional information to this to make it more usable, we might actually turn on some labels here. So what we want to do is we want to go on our visual, let's go to the Format Your Visual section. And let's clean this up just a little bit. So what we want to do is come down here where it says Category Labels and just turn this on. To turn it on, you're just going to click on the button. It's going to toggle that on. And now you see those category labels on your visual. And those will carry through as you drill into the visual. The other thing we want to do on this visual is we want to make sure we update the title. So let's go to the General section here in Formatting, and let's go to the title. And let's just call this Gross Profit Analysis. Those titles can get really long if you keep the title that they have in there. Perfect. Excellent, guys. Hopefully yours is looking just like this and you're feeling pretty good. Scatter chart, there's a lot of steps to it. There's a lot of elements to it because it can show a lot of data. So if you were able to follow along and you're with me, great.